So, nachdem wir uns jetzt ins Backstage geschmuggelt haben, bin ich hier wahrlich in der Hölle gelandet. Ich bin in hell. This is
Kev Bauer.
Kev Bauer from hell.
That's right.
And you play the guitars, right?
Guitars and keyboards, yeah.
Yeah. So your band folded in 1987 and your reunion was in 2008, is that correct?
That's right. The band originally formed in '82. We folded in 1987, and shortly after that, one of our founder member, a guy called Dave Halliday, who was our original frontman, guitar player and singer, he sadly killed himself, and essentially all of us just drew a line in the sand and stopped playing overnight. You know, we all felt that the band was the best that we're ever likely to be in, and none of us are really kind of second best guys, so we just stopped. So you know, we all went away and got careers, and
then you met Andy Schneep.
Well, Andy Sneap was a young kid.
We have to say Andy Sneap is the producer of Accept.
That's right, yeah. Andy he's produced the new Stalingrad album, and he's also produced the last Blood for the Nations album. On top of that, he has almost 100 other albums to his credit: Megadeth, Nevermore, Exodus, Dimmu. I mean, the list is like an encyclopedia of metal. But anyway, Andy Sneap grew up as a small boy watching Hell. He saw the band more than 20 times back in the 80s. And in fact, Dave Halliday, our original frontman, was the guy that actually taught Andy Sneap how to play guitar. So really, Hell and Accept were the bands that Andy grew up with. Now, Andy had been in contact with Tim, the drummer, and Tony, the bass player, in kind of social circles. And they'd kind of talked about, you know, just re-recording some of the old songs. Yeah, but nobody knew where I was. Yeah. And the way it happened is that I had a very, very bad divorce, which resulted in me losing contact with my son for 5 years. And when we finally got reunited, this little boy had grown up into a metalhead. He started playing me all these albums by all these bands that he liked, and as I was looking at the sleeves, I noticed that they'd all been produced by this Andy Sneap guy. So I said to my son, hey, you know, this guy used to be our biggest fan, and, you know, I used to know him really well. And my son didn't believe me. So he contacted Andy on a metal forum to find out if this was true. And in fact, Andy, I think he was either in Canada or the US, and he received this message from this guy called Tom Bauer, and he thought, I wonder if it's the same. So anyway, he replied to the message and said, yeah, you know, if your dad's Kev Bauer, then yes, it's all true. A week later, he came back from the US. He called me up, and we got together, and the rest is history, really.
2011 was your first debut album, so to say.
That's right. In fact, the first album actually took 3 years to record. And the main reason for that is that Andy's a very busy guy, you know, very much in demand at the top of his game. And during that period, he was very, very busy with Megadeth and lots of other projects as well. And he was out of the country in the US for probably 7-8 months of the year. And we literally pieced the album together, you know, a few days here, a few days there, just when he had some downtime.
You were regarded as a cult in the 80s, 90s, because you never had a real album, and all your demo tapes were literally scattered across the country and was handed from person to person as kind of bootleg.
That's right, yeah. I mean, it was the underground tape trading scene that kind of got us known. But I mean, you know, you've just seen the show tonight. If you can imagine that 33 years ago, because, you know, the songs are the same, the playing is the same, you know, we look the same as we did. But obviously 33 years ago, you know, the world of metal wasn't as sophisticated and as advanced as it is now, and you know, that show 33 years ago, it was just like nothing else on earth, and because it was so progressive and adventurous and different, record companies were just frightened of it. It was too extreme for them. It was musically too adventurous.
Far advanced for the time.
I guess you could say that, yes.
So in 2012 you started the tour with Accept.
That's right.
And what about the tour so far?
The tour so far has been fantastic. We started just over a week ago in Paris. We played some shows in Holland, in Belgium. There's obviously a lot of shows in Germany because that's where the majority of Accept's fan base is. And I mean, for us, as a, you know, basically, even though we have a history, to maybe 98% of all the metal fans out here in Europe, we're a brand new band that had its first album released last year. And for us to have the opportunity to do something like this is just, yeah, it's just fantastic. Yeah. I mean, we're all big. I mean, we're all on the front row last night. You know, just just enjoying the show. But obviously, Andy knows the guys very, very well, and we've got to know them sort of very, very well as kind of tour companions.
So you've been through literally all the world, and I guess you have a lot of experience in making music, so to say. How did the metalhead itself change over the past 30 years?
What, metal music in general? The thing that is really unique about Hell is that if you listen to it, the music itself is obviously very, very firmly rooted in the 80s. You can hear all the influences from my heroes when I was a young man, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and these are proper songs with proper structures. But on top of that, we have a very, very theatrical stage show. And the production on the album is very, very modern. So for me, it's really the best of all worlds. In terms of how the whole metal scene is changing and evolving, my personal opinion is that I think metal is really starting to lose its way. And the reason why I say that is that you can go into a record store, you go online, you can buy 100 albums now by 100 bands who all sound exactly the same. You have the same growled vocals, the same blast beats, the same swept arpeggios on the guitar. When we first started playing, if as a musician you were in a band that even sounded slightly like another one, everybody would say, they're trying to copy Judas Priest, or they're trying to copy Iron Maiden or Saxon. But now it seems almost compulsory that the first thing you do when you kind of form a metal band is that you say to yourself, okay, we are death metal, so therefore we have to sound like this. And to me, that is just totally the wrong approach. I think it's just getting very generic, very stale, very boring.
But there are a lot of subgenres evolving in the last, say, 15 years. There's Scottish pirate metal, there's speed metal, there's the
Absolutely right. But for every genre and every subgenre that involves, what then happens is you get another 50 bands who all try and copy. I was listening to a few albums the other day, and there are 3 albums that I listened to, and I'm not going to mention who they were, but it was obvious within the first 30 seconds that these guys had modelled themselves on Dimmu Borgir. They sounded more like Dimmu than Dimmu did, and that to me is ridiculous. If you're going to be a musician and you're going to take this business seriously, for fuck's sakes, try and be original.
And what do you think about the concert today? How's the fan base here?
Well, as I explained, we're still a new band to most of the people out here, and it's.
What do you feel?
It's fascinating to be on the stage and watching the reaction from audiences. Most people who see us, obviously, they come to us after and say, we've never seen anything like this. And because the music is quite technically complex and there's a lot of tempo changes and there's just such a lot to see, what we always find is that the first 1 or 2 or maybe 3 times an audience sees us, they just stand and they watch. They don't really know what to do. All the kind of strange stuff that's happening, the intro to Macbeth, people don't know how to react to that. They don't know whether to laugh, whether to be frightened. It really freaks people out. And then as soon as the set's finished, we can almost hear this kind of gasp, and then the applause and the cheers come. And what then happens is that within the next 3 days, our video will get another 25,000 hits. We'll have another 1,000 friends on our Facebook page. So it's the old school way of building a fan base. We've had almost no support from the press in the UK, nothing in the media whatsoever, no front page covers, no hype, no this band are the next new Metallica, nothing like this. We're doing it the old school way, which is to get out there, play as many shows as possible to as many people as possible, and it's just it's on the ascendancy for us.
I wish you the very best for the show, for the tour, and I hope that the press this time doesn't.
It's only the UK that we have a hard time with. Everywhere else, the press in, Rock Hard in Germany have been they voted us their number 2 in their album of the year. We were album of the year for Sweden Rock. We've been album of the year on more internet webzines and kind of fan sites that you could possibly imagine, and the reviews have just been amazing from day one, really. So yeah, thanks to everybody in Europe and Scandinavia, but the English press need to wake up, really.
I thank you very much for the short interview. I wish you the very best and rock on.